All right, so today we are going to talk about a get out of jail free card for buyers that is rarely utilized and what sellers can do to defend against it.
Oh yeah, you don't want to give them.
Yeah. All right, I'm Sean.
Oh, Kelly.
Yep, and this is this week's market report. So today we're going to talk about condo docs and HOA docs, which they kind of go, they're kind of the same rules, same thing. So we're going to speak specifically to condo docs, but the same rules do apply to the HOA docs. So this is an exciting topic. It's a very, very good tool for buyers.
It can be confusing.
It can be very confusing even to agents. So we're going to get some clarification here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you start.
Okay, first I'd like to read the paragraph about
Yes.
the condo doc since we're focusing on that. It's a part of your contract.
Yes.
Every sales contract has this in it. Okay, pursuant to section 55.1-1 or 1990B, let's start with 2. The Condominium Act requires the seller to obtain the unit association's resale certificate and provide it to the purchaser. This is important. This is different than what your lender's underwriter is going to send to your condo association. It's not a condo questionnaire. Usually your lender isn't going to provide you a copy of the condo questionnaire that they ask to be filled out. When they do, it confuses a lot of buyers.
Yep.
So don't mistake what your lender sends you for this, and this is part of the reason. The seller or their agent has to obtain it, not your lender, and they have to deliver it to you or your agent.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the first point here. This is your get out of jail free.
Yes, the important part.
3, the purchaser may cancel the contract within 3 days, up to 7 days, and we'll talk about that in a second, after receiving the resale certificate or being notified that it will not be available. Officially notified. So that would come in the form of an official notice, which would attach to the sales contract.
Yep.
The 3 days is the get out of jail free.
Yes.
There's an or 7 days, but you would have to get seller permission to extend that, or seller would have to get buyer permission to extend that.
That's
Don't
right.
really see that very often.
No, we've never seen it in ours.
Ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, the other important thing about the deliveries of, oh, you're gonna bring that up. I'm sorry.
So that is the verbiage in the contract.
Yes.
3 days that the buyer has to review the condo docs, which we're going to go over what that means in just a second. And if there's anything in those condo docs that the buyer sees that does not meet what they need for that unit, they can void for any reason. They just say, I'm voiding based on condo docs.
They don't have to give the reason. They don't have to say, because I can't keep my car in the...
Yep. So it's a get out of jail free card. Okay, so what is a resale certificate? So a resale certificate, first of all, the condo docs consist of the condo documents, which are all the rules, regulations, maybe whatever legal filings for the condominium. It also deals with minutes of meetings. It deals with reserve studies. It deals with finances, budgets, all those things. The resale certificate is a part of those condo docs. What the resale certificate is it's a very specific state required document that has very specific questions that have to be answered by the association. And it includes an inspection of the unit if the association has requirements or standards that a unit has to maintain. So they'll actually go in and do an inspection of the unit. This is not like your homeowner inspection. They're not testing appliances and function. They're making sure that there are no violations like flooring that didn't get permission or walls that were moved. We've seen one where walls were added. They actually added a bedroom and it was not an approved bedroom.
It can even go to something as simple as perhaps the condo association, they don't allow owners to put flagpoles up.
Yeah, it can be,
They're not allowed to have those on the outside, or even maybe the owner replaced the door handle.
Yeah, door handles,
hardware or whatever, and it has to be brass, but they put black.
Yep.
If that's not allowed, that's gonna be written in there as a violation and something that if you don't have them change it before you own it, it's your violation.
It's your violation. So in the contract, there's another section called title in which it says that the seller will deliver the property to the buyer with void of violations. So all those violations have to be corrected or you can voluntarily take those violations on, but they would become your violations. But the seller does have to remedy those.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's the resale certificate. So
You
that
weren't
way,
calling me wrong, right? You were
no, I
just
wasn't. No, I was agreeing and
expanding.
yeah, expanding a little bit.
Making
Yeah.
it a little bit more right.
A little bit more, yes.
Just
I
a
was
little bit
expanding
more
your
right, I
rightness.
appreciate it.
So that's a resale certificate. And so let's define delivery now.
Yes, this is very important too, and this would help clear up that confusion where if your lender delivers you, copies you on that condo questionnaire, that does not count. It has to actually be according to the contract.
And it has to be the resale certificate.
The resale certificate, any part of the condo docs, right? But it has to be pursuant to this. Now, what did I just read before? The seller's agent had to acquire them and deliver them to the buyer or buyer's agent, not a lender.
Right.
Okay, so that's one. Two, it has to be according to the delivery that's outlined in your contract,
Yes.
which your agent writes for you guys, agree to it, and we put it in here. Here's the paragraph. B, for delivery of the certificate or the notice of non-availability of the certificate, buyer prefers delivery at, and then you put an email address, if electronic, or blank, if hard copy. I guess back in the
Old days.
horse and carriage days,
Yeah.
they might actually use the postal service for that. We always put in our contracts electronic only,
Yeah.
right? So not from your lender to your underwriter or to your loan officer. No, from the seller to you or the agent as defined in your contract.
That
That's
very
delivery.
specific email address.
That's
and if there's
delivery.
ever a dispute, the only way that the seller has the right to dispute the time of delivery is to show proof of delivery to that specific email. For example, we have contracts.price and price.
Yeah.
I also have an email address called seanprice.realtor. A lot of times agents will send stuff to my seanprice.realtor address, but contracts is what's labeled in here. That's
Right.
not delivery. It has to go to that specific email address.
Right.
So
Choose your agent wisely, right? We all make sure we can ensure deliveries and everything. So if I'm working our contracts email and that's where all the deliveries come and go, the legal deliveries according to all of our contracts, I copy this man on it as proof of delivery,
Yeah,
right? Along with
exactly.
everyone else. It's so no one can delete it or it can't go
Right.
to spam and I can and say, no, it wasn't delivered. I can say, yeah,
It was proof.
delivered. Yeah.
So for the buyer perspective, there's a couple points to talk about. Number one is it is a 3-day get out of jail free. And it's important to understand that delivery is what starts the clock. Now, that does not always occur at the beginning of the contract. Go for it. I knew you were chomping, so go at it. I know.
The delivery, right? The
Yeah.
delivery can vary. Here's what to be on the lookout for on both ends, right?
Yeah.
So we've got this one contract where we almost had to reschedule settlement because we hadn't even received the condo docs in enough time for them to, like, we were down to the wire on
It's
them
like
not
day
even
25.
having 3 days.
Yeah.
And this was an investment property, so every item in those docs,
Was
not every
important.
item, but many items were very important
Yeah.
to
make
go
sure
or
it was
no
right.
go,
Yeah.
right? The other thing is, damn it! I mean, dang it! We didn't get that get out of jail free because the other agent was as awesome as we are, and they had already ordered those docs. And as soon as we went under contract, that was in my email.
That minute, yeah.
Okay, that doesn't
Yeah.
happen often because not many people are as good
Yeah.
as we are.
Yeah, so from a buyer's perspective, let's say you don't have an inspection contingency, but you get
And that's wrong. That seemed conceited. I'm sorry.
It's
That
okay.
was really great.
No, you're good. If you don't have an inspection contingency, but you can do an information-only inspection, and you do that inspection, and then the condo docs aren't delivered, and let's say they get delivered 2 weeks later, well, if you didn't like something on the inspection, void based on the condo docs. And there's other ways to do this as well. So from a seller's perspective, your defense is, when you sign that listing agreement, give the agent the permission to order the condo docs. That is going to cost you. It is going to be between $350 to $500. It is an expense. But when that contract ratifies, you want those docs to be delivered, because as a seller, if you're sitting under contract for 30 days and they don't get those docs until day 21 or day 24, and sometimes when you order it from, even if you order the condo docs the day of ratification from the condo association, it takes 2 to 3 weeks to get them.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be sitting under contract for 21 days with that buyer having to get out of jail free card. What if they just change their mind? What if they just get cold feet? What if they're parents come and see it and don't like it? What if,
or that contract or that property they put an offer in on before
falls out?
That went under contract, it fell out, and they
Yes.
were a backup, and they're like,
They
no,
just-
I really want this one. Give me the condo docs
Yep.
so I can say nah.
Yep. And they can't, okay, so that's a great example. Let's say you're under contract. Let's say you're 7 days in. The property they really wanted falls out of contract. They're like, I want that property. They go to their agent. They say, I really want that property. What can I do? Well, we haven't gotten condo docs yet. We can't void until we get them, but you can go ahead and put an offer in on that property, and then whenever they deliver, we'll just go ahead and void the contract.
Yeah, say no,
let's
we
say
don't like these.
Yeah, let's say they don't deliver until day 25. The seller's sitting off the market for 25 days, even though the buyers have gone and put another offer in on another property, and they're out.
Right.
So let your listing agent order the condo docs immediately and your HOA docs immediately, so you don't have that get out of jail free card sitting there. Also, if there are violations as a seller, you have to make the repairs.
I was going to talk about that.
I'm
so
sorry,
that
you
I
get the
seem
next
really
one.
smart
Okay.
too.
Go.
You know
repairs.
what? The other reason you want to do it is because you want to have time to make any repairs for the violations that you didn't even know that
I wasn't
you
even
had
thinking about that.
done,
Yeah,
violated.
Yep. You want to make sure you have time for repairs. And there's one other thing.
Well, this was going to be yours.
Well, you can have it.
You can affect quicker closing times.
We just had a contract that our buyer did everything perfectly, and we were
We're
able.
going to do a case study
Yeah,
on
we'll
this
do a case study on
beautiful
her.
woman.
So she had a POFA, a pre-offer full approval. She did a pre-offer inspection, so she gave a clean offer with a 10-day close.
With the right lender
With
who
the right
offered
lender.
a 10,000
Yes.
money back guarantee if
Yep.
they didn't close and whatever.
So
It
anyway,
was-
we'll
it
get
was
into those details on another video.
pristine. Well, it's not closed quite yet, so
Yeah,
we're not going
yeah.
to. Who knows? It might have been.
But if that agent had waited to order those condo docs, we couldn't have done a 10-day close,
Yeah.
and that seller would have been at risk. So
Talking
hit
to
that-
you, Ashu.
Ashu,
Good-
props.
Good move.
So he had those docs. He delivered them to us at the time of ratification, and the 3 days started. We were all good. So that's condo docs. It's very important. You probably have questions. Please feel free to let us know. I'll let Kelly answer them because she's smarter than I am.
Thanks, honey.
You're welcome. So let's get ready to dive right into the numbers, and you're going to see that even though last week we had a pretty significant fluctuation, we kind of got back to the steady trend that we were experiencing. So getting to the numbers, you can see the orange line is our buyer activity. Blue line is our inventory. And you can see that last week we had this little influx of buyer activity here. And then this week we had a significant pickup in buyer activity. That significant pickup is coming from, you can see here, 3 weeks ago we had a drop in inventory. So that caused this little bit of a pickup last week. And then we had this huge increase in inventory last week. So last week when we had this little pickup in buyer activity and this significant increase in inventory, that brought us really close to a neutral market. But I said in last week's market that we needed to watch that and see what happened to see if this was a start of a new trend or if it was just a fluctuation. Turns out it was a fluctuation, because when you come in today, you can see, or for this week, you can see the last 7 days, buyer activity picked right back up to take care of all of this inventory. And then inventory dropped back down to a more normal level. So if you take a line from here and you just kind of follow the general trend of this line, we've got a steady increase in inventory. And if we follow the same time period, we've got an increase in buyer activity that's pretty much parallel to that, maybe a little bit more significant. So the market's staying pretty consistent with regards to its increase in activity, and both on the buy side and the sell side. And that activity is driven by this inventory, because when the inventory goes down, buyer activity slows down. When inventory goes up, buyer activity increases pretty significantly. So the strength of the seller's market coming from this point here, if we take just a general trend, we can see that it's in a generally trending in a strong seller's market. So basically inventory is still driving the market. The fact that we don't have a lot of inventory is still causing the prices to stay low. Buyer activity is actually lower, but again, that looks to be because of the inventory. It doesn't look to be because the buyers aren't there. It just looks to be because of the inventory, because when inventory picks up, buyer activity goes with it. So we'll keep an eye. We'll see how this goes as we finish out the spring here in the month of May, and we start getting into the summer, June, July, August. We'll see if this trend continues and kind of see what happens with that. So But what does this mean for sellers? Sellers, it means that it's still a great time for you to get your property on the market. The buyers are out there. As long as your property is priced right for the condition, it's going to sell very quickly. And then for buyers, there's still competition. There's still multiple offers, but it's not as chaotic as it was several years ago. You can still get into a property for a fair market price without, you might have to pay a little bit more if it's a nice property that's priced right, but if you, you're not gonna have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars more unless you're in the $1 million range. So it's a pretty good market for everybody out there, to be honest with you. All right, if you have any questions, please let us know. And if you have any questions about what you should do strategically for this next 7 days, let us know that as well. All right, we'll see you on next week's report.